Disinformation is what I want to dive into with you right now. Disinformation, or as the Russians would say, disinformatia, because they are practitioners, longtime active practitioners of it, both domestically and in foreign affairs. Government-sponsored, government-pushed lies, they think for a higher purpose. That's at least in the Russian context, in the Soviet context as well, how it was going, how they used it. Then you have America today. What's happening here? Democrats seem to think that they have an iron grip on the notion of disinformation. They're the ones that get to determine. They're the ones who know and understand what real disinformation is. And you aren't allowed to say it. This isn't even a particularly clever way to nullify free speech, both as a cultural and political notion, as well as a legal, constitutional one. They're not even coming up with some new, fascinating argument here. They're essentially saying it's so dangerous what you think about things, COVID, elections, you name it, the climate. Your thoughts are so dangerous. They're saying this to at least half the country, if not more, that you aren't allowed to share them. And the government will both tell the biggest, most powerful companies when it comes to information dissemination, the social media platforms, the government will tell them, hey, go after these targets. And now they're even going a step beyond to a true page from Orwell's 1984, or the Ministry of Truth, Ministry of Peace, Ministry of so many things, that they're setting up this disinformation governance board within the Department of Homeland Security. So within the largest non-military federal law enforcement and bureaucratic agency, right? They're setting this thing up so that it can grow very rapidly. But they've got an issue here. Who is going to run the disinformation board? The very notion of disinformation as an official government role, we have to find all the lies and make the lies go away. Anybody who believes in freedom, I don't just mean free speech, freedom should be on edge. But the Biden administration is so desperate, so pathetic, and so inept that things that they used to do behind closed doors, now they're doing out in the open. Arguments that used to be implicit are now explicit. They are saying the quiet part out loud, and they're taking action on it. So now they have this disinformation governance board with Nina Jankowicz, allegedly or apparently tapped to head this thing. And there's two levels where this is interesting. On the one hand, she is about as unserious and preposterous as you would expect the disinformation czar of the Biden administration to be. Here she is singing online about disinformation. I think this was on TikTok.
Information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. When Rudy Giuliani shared bad intel from Ukraine, or when TikTok influencers say COVID can cause pain, they're laundering disinfo, and we really should take note and not support their lies with our wallet, voice, or vote. Oh!
Yeah, Soviet Mary Poppins is not somebody who should be in charge of anything. Let's just understand that one right now. But she is. She is. And now we could have some fun at the fact that she is apparently a musical theater nerd. Look, we all have our nerd things. I may be doing some history podcast recording over the weekend. We have our nerd things. Musical theater, though, is a very specific one. Very specific. Folks that are into that, they tend to be alone in how much they love the musical theater stuff, but they tend to love it. That's not the point, though. We're having a little fun because she seems like an unserious person. But she's a little propagandist. I mean, this also becomes quite serious when you think about this is a person that the government would turn to and say, hey, you're going to be in charge of this effort within the Department of Homeland Security, right? I mean, you got TSA under this one. I think Secret Service is under it. I mean, I think the Coast Guard now, they've put all this stuff Border Patrol, all these different agencies in the DHS. It's a monstrous organization, huge. And they're going to have this disinformation effort to root it out, to protect people from it. And this is who's going to be in charge. The funny thing is she actually has expertise in disinformation because she is a practitioner of it. She was a big proponent of the Hunter Biden laptop story, which we'll be talking more about later on in the show, is a Trump campaign product. Not quite saying it's Russian disinformation, although maybe that got in there too. So this is somebody who is a partisan, clearly. And when Jen Psaki over at the White House is asked about this, notice that she just won't engage.
She had previously called the Hunter Biden laptop a Trump campaign product, seeming to discredit its validity or validity of reporting surrounding that. How can you assuage concerns of people who are looking at this person who's been appointed to this position and wondering if she's going to be able to accurately judge misinformation now that a lot of that reporting has been proven to be factual in some ways?
Well, I don't have any comments on the laptop, but what I can tell you is that it sounds like the objective of the board is to prevent disinformation and misinformation from traveling around the country in a range of communities. I'm not sure who opposes that effort.
The path to hell is paved with board intentions, Psaki. What does that even, why do we even care what their ostensible purpose is? I also think that she knows right now that this is a tough case for the White House to make, doesn't look good, so she's dodging. She's stepping aside, essentially, saying, well, I have no idea. Let me tell you something. There are two characteristics of the left, which is now the vanguard of the Democrat Party, meaning they call the shots. Right? The left wing of the Democrat Party is running the Democrat Party. Not every Democrat is a far leftist, but the Democrat Party is being run by leftists, which is why it has gone so insane and why Joe Biden there are a number of reasons why he looks confused all the time, but that's one of them. And you have to keep in mind hypocrisy and hubris, the twin pillars of the Democrat Party today in how they approach essentially everything, hypocrisy and hubris. They're hypocrites constantly, right? You see this with the way they react to one social media platform, Twitter, possibly not being a province of progressives. Just all it takes is one. All of a sudden they're, we can't allow this. Government should step in. We need regulation. This is destroying our democracy. Well, hold on a second. I thought you guys pretended to be in favor of free speech. And I thought you said, libs, it's a private company. It can do what it wants. Now it's not a private company that can do what it wants because your guy, so to speak, or your people are not going to be in charge. They're just hypocrites. And the mask mandates. Oh, no. I felt like it was really important to be at a cool party without a mask on. I'm a lib. That's okay. But all the rest of the people out there, whether they're engaged in rigorous activity, it doesn't matter. They should mask up. All the peasants should mask up. That's the attitude of the Democrat elites. You see this all the time. So hypocrisy is everywhere. And on the disinformation issue, it's hubris. Think about this. The Democrat Party right now should be in the midst of soul searching over how they have gone so far, become so crazy, and gotten so many things so wrong. Just take COVID, for example, right? They embrace their ability to shut down disinformation throughout COVID. How many times were they wrong? Even on some issues that they now have to admit, right? COVID doesn't transmit from surfaces. Oh, if you had said washing your hands 30 times a day is stupid, don't do that. Disinformation. That's what they would have said. Oh, okay. Where did the COVID virus come from? I think it might have come from a lab. Disinformation, they shouted. Or they just shut you down, kicked you off the internet, said you were a threat to our sacred democracy with your disinformation lies. They have been wrong so much. They have, to any rational person, on so many issues. The Hunter Biden laptop right before the election. Go down the list. They should feel humiliated in their efforts to root out disinformation. But instead, because they have so much hubris, because they are so arrogant, they say, we're doing a great job. We should do more of this disinformation hunting. We should set up a governance board within the DHS to find things that are out there that we don't want making their way through different communities, untruths that are out there. Live not by lies. Democrats are lying when they say that disinformation is some neutral threat, neutral concern, non-political. We're just trying to make sure it's just the facts, folks. Spend 2 seconds going through the most recent fact check that you've seen around COVID from PolitiFact or one of these other organizations, run by morons, read by idiots. Go back and check the fact checking. You'll see it's just a partisan operation, laundering the talking points of the journos out there to make it seem as though they're always right. And anybody who challenges them, has a different point of view, is factually wrong. The left can't even differentiate between fact and opinion, as they have established so many times. They can't differentiate between judgment and a clear and objective reality, right? And now they want to set up a disinformation board? Well, of course they do. Because if they can strip from you the right to say and speak the truth, they win. And they know it. That's all this comes down to. Otherwise, they have to make the case. They have to present their arguments. They have to explain. They have to explain why it is now a article of faith for the Democrat Party that you have to wear a mask even when you're not wearing a mask because you're masking up between bites, and it's all so stupid, and we can see it. An article of faith in the Democrat Party that men can menstruate and get pregnant. False. That is a lie. But they want you to say it. Why does it matter to them so much? If they break down your ability to say what is true, then they think they destroy your ability over the long term to even know what is true. And that's why disinformation is so important to them. They can't make the argument, so they shut down the other side of it. And if you think it'll just stop within the DHS at this one individual running a few other bureaucrats, no. They will grow and grow. They think they are losing their grip on the narrative, and they are getting desperate. And that's where this ministry of truth from the Biden regime is coming from.